Solving trig equations really comes down to making sure we can use the calculator to get approximate solutions when we don't have something that we recognize. If I start with a question like this, and I say, how do we find the sine, the t value when sine is equal to 1/3? Or why am I using t? Let's just use theta, like we always have. I don't know a triangle that does that. It's not one of my special right triangles. I can draw it and have an idea of where it might be. I also know that there would be a second one over here somewhere in quadrant 2, but I don't know what angle that is. We do have a function that we learned that can give us that angle in a decimal form. I can say that if sine of theta is equal to 1/3, then theta could be the arcsine of 1/3. So let's go ahead and plug that in our calculator. In this calculator, it's a function here. And so I'd say inverse sine of 1/3. On a scientific calculator, you can find it, and I've done it before. I'm making sure that I'm in radians mode, so you're going to want to do that in your calculator. And I get a decimal answer of this. Now, let's make some meaning behind this. I'm going to round this to 3 decimal places, so that'd be 0.340. And let's report that out. This is theta is about 0.340. And that is a radian measure. I know there's no pi, but pi doesn't need to be there for it to be a radian measure. And that is this angle right here. This would be a theta of 0.340. But to get the green one over on the other side, I have to recognize that this is pi, and this angle right here is that same 0.340. So I'm going to do pi minus that 0.340. You can do this in your head. We can do this. No, we can't do this in our head. That's a little silly. It's pi. So let's go and plug this in. I'm going to call up the pi button on this. You should have a pi button on your calculator. Minus. And I've got a trick where I can call back the previous answer that I just used. Or better yet, I can just come up and grab this. And I can say, give me what that is. And that's 2.802. I'm going to report that as my second one, about 2.802. So my solutions, I'm going to say pi could be equal to 0.340 or 2.802. This right here is the quadrant 1 angle, and that's the quadrant 2 angle. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do 3 cosine of t or cosine of theta is equal to -1/2. This one's a little bit more challenging. Or sorry, is equal to -1. So I'll divide, and I get the cosine of theta is equal to -1/3. Again, we recognize that this is not an angle that I know. Okay, so what do? I like sketching it first so I get an idea of where my angles are. And I am going to sketch it. I know that this is going to be in quadrants 2 and 3. Those are the 2 places where cosine can be negative. I'm going to revise my sketch just a little bit to make it more accurate to the image. It would be a lot steeper than that. 1 and 3. The -1, let's just draw that there. So this just gives me an idea of where these are. Again, these are not angles that I know. So there's a number of ways we can go from here. I'm going to give you my suggestion. I'm going to do, I'm not going to say theta, I'm going to do the arc cosine of 1/3, not of -1/3, just 1/3. That's going to give me a positive number. That won't be my answer. So let's go ahead and plug that in. Trig inverse cosine of 1/3. I get 1.231. I'm going to go ahead and report that is 1.231. Again, this is not my answer, because that 1.231, that's this angle right here, or that's this angle right here. So knowing that this angle is pi, my answers are actually equal to pi minus the 1.231, or my theta could be equal to pi plus the 1.231. That way I can get both of my possibilities. By the way, that 1.231, that would be this angle right here. This little piece right there. That's not one of the angles I want, but I can use it to help me get the other two angles. Let's go back to the calculator and report those. I want to do pi minus, and grab that. And there's one possibility. Then I'm going to do pi plus, grab that. That's my other possibility. And we'll report those out. 1.911. That first one would be 1.911. That's in radians. And the second one was 5.052. 5.052. Let's check that these actually make sense to me, and they do. Remember, they should be, pi is about 3.14, so this one's a little bit less than, that one's a little bit more than. Yeah, that makes sense. I think, wait a minute, the pi plus doesn't seem to make sense. Let's go back to this. See if I made a calculation mistake. I did, I grabbed the wrong number. So let's do pi plus, I meant to grab this one up here and do pi plus that. That one seemed a little too big. Okay, 4.373. Normally I would delete this mistake from the video, but I'm going to keep this because there was a little error correction in place before I committed to these as my final answers. That 5 felt wrong. These feel a little bit more correct. Like that this would be 1.911, this would be 3.14159, and this would be 4.373. So those feel a little bit more like evenly spaced out. So these are my solutions. It's a little bit more tricky when you have these things when they're not strictly ones that we can use, ones that recognize an angle that we have. Okay, let's do another. So I'm looking at OneNote for examples of ones that we're going to do, and let's do one of the evens or odds right next to them. Okay, got one. Let's do this last one. Let's do 5 cosine squared x plus 4 cosine x minus 1 equals 0. This is one that may or may not factor. Let's check it. So I'm going to let u equal the cosine of x. So I get 5u squared plus 4u minus 1 equals 0. If I factor this as a 5u and u, 1 and 1, yeah, this does factor. And I get plus 5 minus 1, that works, equals 0. So I get u equals 1/5 or u equals -1. But it wasn't u, it was really cosine of theta equals 1/5 or cosine of theta equals -1. Okay, that solves, we know where cosine's -1, that's this angle left here, so that would be theta equals pi. But for this one, we need to actually figure out the arc cosine of 1/5. So I'm going to go back and plug that in. Trig arc cosine of 1/5, and that gives me 1.369. This is a positive number. I know cosine is positive in quadrants 1 and 4, so this will actually be one of my thetas because that will be the quadrant 1 version. But then I need to find the other one by subtracting it from 2 pi, so I can get the quadrant 4 version. I'm going to go back to my calculator and we're going to figure out what is 2 pi minus the 1.369. That will be my other theta. So let's go back in there. 2 pi minus the 1.369. It's going to give me 4.914. And those are my two solutions. Along with, sorry, there are 3 solutions. Let's actually write those out. Theta equals pi, comma 1.369, comma 4.914. So those are the three solutions for that one. Okay. Oh, let's do one more, maybe just set up. I'm running up on a PRT here, but we'll see if we can finish this. This is the original problem. I'm getting a suspicious feeling that this doesn't factor. And if it doesn't factor, we're just going to be playing around with our calculators a little bit. 2 tangent x. Let's try to split this into 2 tangent x. Oh no, it does. If I get 3 here, and to make this a minus 3 and a positive 1, then that would be negative 6. This would be plus 2. Okay, so I get tangent of x equals negative 1/2, or tangent of x is equal to 3 over 2. So let's do this. Where's tangent of x equal to 1/2? I don't know. I know tangent is negative in quadrants 2 and 4, so I'm actually going to sketch this out where I have something like this, where it's negative 1 for the y, or sorry, 1 for the y and negative 2 for the x, or something like this, where it's, let's see, 2 here and negative 1 there. That matches. Then I'm going to say, I'm going to take the arctangent of 1/2, which is not one of my angles, but it's going to help me find my angle. So we're going to go trig arctangent 1/2, get 0.464. Which means that this is 2 pi minus 0.464, and this would be pi minus 0.464. And if I calculate those, okay, I just copied all this down during the exam, but I just punched in my calculator. Don't forget we still have this piece right here, so I'm going to take this and let's do another one. Where's tangent equal to 3/2? That's positive. That's going to happen either here, where I have a y of 3 and an x of 2, or here where I have a y of negative 3 and an x of negative 2. I put those there just to make sure I've got this right. So let's do the arctangent of 3 over 2. That's going to give me this one right here, so that's good. And if I punch that in, I get arctangent of 3/2 is 0.983. 0.983. And then my other one is going to have to be 0.983. That's this one right here, 0.983. This is going to have to be 0.983 plus pi, or I should probably write it as pi plus 0.983. This is pi, and to get there, we have to add the 0.983. So pi plus the 0.983 is going to give me pi plus this, 4.124. So if I list all my answers out, I'm just going to highlight them here, 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 and here. All the ones in green would be considered solutions. This, these, and these. We want to list them together.